Hi, everyone. It's Alyssa here at Stories and Spoilers, the podcast, and I'm here with a very special author. We are going to be talking poetry. We're going to be talking Christmas romances, all the things. So let's hop right into it. I'm here with the author of Moss Mother, which is a beautiful collection of poems, and an upcoming Christmas story called 12 Voicemails of Christmas. This is Maya-Gawonii. So, hi. Tell them a little bit more
Hi.
about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name is Maya-Gawonii, or just Maya for short. I'm super excited because this is one of my very first actual podcast interviews. So I'm
Ooh.
like, oh, so excited and happy to be here. I am a Afro-Indigenous and Egyptian writer. I am based in Oakland, California. And I've been in Oakland for 5 years, but I'm a California native. Though my family is from Louisiana. So that's what inspires a lot of my writing as well. And I'm sure we'll get into that.
That's so cool. I have to say that like the more authors that I find from all over the world, the honestly the better the romance genre and poetry gets. Diversity, it
Oh,
just gives
yeah.
it more soul. So I'm sitting here and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I your writing feels like hot chocolate and the best marshmallows and just like coziness and
Thank
soulful and
you.
like made from the heart. It is so cozy. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
amazing. So I'm just so happy to have you here. Everyone who's listening, please grab a cozy drink, get your little fuzzy blanket, because by the time this stuff comes out, it'll be like December. So it's gonna be wintry goodness. And you should definitely add 12 voicemails of Christmas to your TBRs, y'all, because will have already been out. It comes out November 29th. So
Yes.
by now it'll be out, it'll be on Kindle. So that's super, super fun. Let's hop into some icebreakers.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your life and how that inspires your writing and your books.
Okay. Where to begin?
From the day you were born.
Right. It was a fall evening in 1993. Yeah, I will preface by saying I'm a millennial. I don't know. I feel like that being a millennial and being like it just kind of feels like this in between generation inspires a lot of my writing because for my characters, I feel like for a long time I would read characters that were either like it was young adult, it's like high school age or like very, very young, early college
Mhm.
age. But I feel like the majority of books that I've been reading just throughout my life have either been people in their 20s or 40 plus. But there's not, I don't know, in my experience, there hasn't been like a chunk of books where the people are like 30 or in
Mhm.
their 30s or even like 35. Um, I think it's like sometimes if you write in the 20s, it's more accessible to younger people. And then if you write in the 40s, it's accessible to older people. But like there's like this
Mhm.
gap. So I try to always make my characters in their 30s. And so yeah, that's a part of my life, just like that millennial generation that's in there. Um, and my partner is 28. So my spouse, partner slash spouse keeps me young in the sense that like I still understand some like the Gen Z slang. So when I need to write about somebody that's like in their 30s and maybe they have like a young coworker, I feel like I can write to that like authentically. Um
Ooh.
yeah, and then I'm a mom and I would say what inspires my romance writing is just I like to write stories that I feel are missing on like a bookshelf. And so I don't want to write, and I mean, obviously we take inspiration from like everywhere and I read a lot. So I feel like I have like a lot of information and like reading history in me that I'm
Mhm.
sure flows into writing. But I try to like think if I was in a bookstore and this is a story I want to tell, like, has this been told before? Or if it has been told, has it been told from my perspective and like my lived
Mm.
experience? And so yeah, I try to write you know, magical realism romance is my favorite genre. So that's what I tend to stick to with fiction. And then always BIPOC led. And even if the ending's bittersweet, I'm sorry, I only write happy endings. I only want to see like women of color being loved on. So
Ooh, I love to
that's
hear it.
that's how I
Yes.
am.
Yeah, I feel like the world's already harsh enough, and when people say like who goes through it the most, I feel like people of color go through it quite a bit, and
Yeah.
it's kind of in stories we find our escape, we find a soft place to land. Like for Christmas time, a cheesy Hallmark movie, I get it. Like we all know how it's gonna end. We all know they're gonna save the Christmas like tree farm. Like we all know that the coffee shop's gonna survive. even though their coffee is like 50 cents in what city? But I'm sitting here and it's like,
Yeah.
no, I want to know that like the happy ending is going to happen. I want to know that like, don't get me wrong, I do love a good dark romance, but sometimes,
Yeah.
especially near the end of the year, there's something really beautiful about like, I don't know, like I'm in Florida, so I'm all here
Yeah.
for a white Christmas. I'm here for some
Yeah.
snow. I'm here for some blizzards. Like I in
Yeah.
fantasy, in theory, but I'm I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like a good happy ending, it's kind of like a hug. Like you don't realize you need it, you know?
Yeah.
It would be horrible to go through this whole story at the end. It's like, and they die. I want them to
Right.
be happy.
And like I feel
Please.
like with my writing too, and like, hopefully we can loop back around next year for some surprises
I
next
hope
year.
so.
But yes, with my writing, I want the happy endings though, like to feel earned. So
Mm.
I even if the stakes are high, like I want people to know that if they read something I write, like they're gonna feel good at the end of it. But I always, want to make sure like the happy ending is not expected. It's not formulaic. There are high stakes. Sometimes it's bittersweet. So sometimes it's a mixed bag, which is what I feel like that's life, right? Like even like
Mhm.
the best day is kind of tinged with your 9 to 5 that you have to go to. So I just, I want to see that too because I don't want folks to, approach my books being like, oh, well, I know how this is gonna end. I don't think you know how it's gonna end. I think it might surprise you.
Ooh, speaking of surprises, I want to know what is your favorite genre to write, and what is one genre that you want to dive into one day? Because
Okay.
I'm here for it. I want to know, like, what are some things that you want to
Yeah.
write in the future, and what are some genres where you're like, I want to kind of throw my hat in. I would love to see where this goes.
Yeah. So favorite genre is romance, but subgenre of that magical realism. I love
Ooh.
magical realism because you kind of get dropped into these worlds where it's not like Lord of the Rings, where there's like necessarily rules to the magic that you can follow and like a Bible that you can go back to that explains how things work. I have found in the magical realism authors that I love, like Ashley Poston and Rainbow Rowell, a lot of times you're just reading and it's like, this is the magic, and it just is. And, strap in for the ride. So that's kind of how I approach my magical realism romance writing. There's, if there needs to be, like, I would never write a magical realism time travel if there wasn't like time travel logic, right? Like, some things have to be tight, but
I
as
hear
much as I can, I just want people to like just enjoy the story and the magic is there and trust in the magic.
that. Ooh.
Something I would like to dip into is I did a little bit of this with my book of poetry that I know we'll get to later, Moss Mother. But I want to start writing I'll do like half magical realism, but I also want to do like half like Southern Gothic romances with Black women.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have some stories up my sleeve and some in the back of my head that I'm like, this needs to be written for sure.
Yes, go for it. When I think like Southern Gothic and you're from New Orleans, in my head, I'm just like, I, it would be nice to have like witches and also like a love story where it's like you're fated, but there's a catch. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
with any, like there's a cost. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it can be something cute where it's like every single time that you meet, you have memories of yourself in past lives. It could be something unique like
yeah.
that, or like
Mm-hmm.
something where like the person you meet, one person lives forever, and every time that they meet their partner, like they look different. They're always reincarnated as like
Yeah.
a different person, and they always
Mm-hmm.
end up back in New Orleans. That'd be kind of
Yeah.
cool. Like
Yeah, and like
I'm here
I
for
love
it.
that because my family is from mostly New Orleans and Monroe, but then also like Shreveport. My grandma's from Natchitoches, which is like the top of like Creole country in Louisiana.
Oh
So
wow.
we're kind of spread out, but I would say like our home base is New Orleans. And there's just so much, not to jump around, but like when it comes to like Moss Mother, there's just a lot of magic in Louisiana. And I think there's also equal parts pain and like history and like there's obviously the history of like enslavement and then there's Hurricane Katrina and just like structural violence that has happened to the people of Louisiana, but there's also like such opportunity to write about the love that happens there in spite of like these institutional forces.
Mhm.
So yeah, I see that as like a very good opportunity for me and I have my eye on it.
Ooh, I'm like, I low key kind of want to read more books like that, and I'm so excited to read them from your perspective. I think the last one I read that had like magical realism and like somewhat of a curse was Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Kennedy
Oh,
Ryan. It
I
was
haven't heard of that.
really good. It was
Okay.
very good. I don't want to say too much. I did do a previous episode about it because I went in
Hmm.
blind, but there is an element in that story that, like, if I could like share it, it's so beautiful when the main character meets the person she's supposed to be with. She's in New York and she smells night blooming jasmine, but she's like really into plants and she knows that it's not in season. And she's
Hmm.
like, why would that be in the city? It's so rare and it's also not supposed to grow
Right.
around this time of year. She goes into a garden and she sees him like come out of the shadows. He looks at her and he's like, don't ever come back here. And he leaves. Like, and she feels a
I
connection
love
with him, like,
that.
oh, and you're sitting here, you're like, what must have happened? And when you get his perspective, he like is so shrouded in mystery. There's a voice throughout the story that's listing off like why the main character Ricky, why she is the way she is. And there's a
Hmm.
voice kind of following him. It's really unique. And there is an element of like almost like a third presence in the story. Like the city is a person in a way.
Hmm.
It is
I
so
love doing that with
interesting.
my settings. I love doing that with my settings too. It's like I when I approach my stories, it's not just like the two people and the side characters. Like I want the place that it takes place in to feel like the setting to feel also like a character, also alive and vibrant and like a part of the story as well.
Ooh, I cannot wait to see how you give New Orleans a voice
Yeah.
and kind of like how that voice is interlocked and like braided into the story. I'm so excited. I think that's one of the best parts of romance is like when the location itself like is places that you can go, it's places that you can feel, like
Hmm.
when the food and the music, if your books become audiobooks, which I definitely hope they do, having
I'm
music play a
trying.
role,
I'm trying.
make
Yeah.
it happen. I'm sitting here like multiple independent authors have been like, when you get an audiobook, like it's a big deal, it's a big investment,
Yeah.
but it's huge. Like it's also really accessible.
Yeah.
I'm just like, ooh, I can't wait to see where your stories go. Cause like even with 12 voicemails of Christmas, like I could easily imagine it being something like when you enter a coffee shop, like you hear the door open and the bells, like,
Yeah.
oh, that'd be so immersive and cool. So
Thank you. And like that's also, I'm like, what love stories, and I'm sure they exist, but like in my experience of like reading love stories, I feel like you get the New York, you get the Los Angeles, you
mhm.
get the, stuff like that. You even get San Francisco, and some of my book does take place. The female main character, Kaya, lives in San Francisco, but I wanted the heart of the story to be Oakland, California. And I feel like
Mm.
Oakland has not gotten enough love. Even like in the year 2025, I heard Oakland so many times in the news in like a detrimental way of like,
Mm.
just people have assumptions about what Oakland is because it is the birthplace of the Black Panther Party. And so I think that, I was just like, where should this book take place? And I was like, Oakland. Oakland is magical. We have our own very vibrant, BIPOC love, like resistant, like I don't know. I just wanted it to be a holiday romance that says that like yes, the town, that's what we call it. We call Oakland the town. Like yes, the town has its own magic and like it comes alive during Christmas time even without the snow.
Oh, I absolutely adore that. I'm going to give you a challenge. If you could
Okay.
describe your writing in 5 words, what would they be and why?
Okay. Let's see. I'd say warm. Warm because I want you to feel like even if it's like summer, that you are like cozy in your center. So I'd say warm. I'll say immersive. I'm really big on and like I've had writing mentors say like show don't tell, show don't tell. So like I do tell, in my writing like when something needs to be spelled out, but I like to, have like I have a draft for another novel, and it's like I describe the way the woman is like slowly pulling up into the driveway, like what she hears and like what she smells and like the way the heat feels on her skin. So I
Ooh.
would say like warm and immersive for that. I would say uh scene, like I don't know if that counts or just, yeah, that might sound awkward, but like I want Black women to feel seen, I want women of
Mm.
color to feel very seen, and I want especially like queer folks, because I'm gay and like I write a lot of queer stories. Which is funny, even though the 12 Voicemails of Christmas is not a queer story, I will be having a lot of queer stories coming up. But I
Yay.
want queer folks to feel like they are the heroes of their stories as well. So that's three. And then for the last two, I would say, um, hmm. I don't know how to really summarize it into two words, but I think I would say the way I describe my writing is it's not gratuitous. That's two words, not gratuitous.
That's okay.
So yeah, and when I say not gratuitous, I mean like if there's violence, it'll make sense, but I don't like to particularly get super gory if it doesn't make sense. So like if
Mm,
there's a scene, you know what I mean? Like there's a TV show called Magicians that I used to love and
I've heard
watch.
of it.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. And in season one, I'm not gonna like give it away, but in season one, it's like the season finale. There's a scene that is so gratuitous that the producer had to come out and apologize for it. So when I have kept that in my mind since that came out, like, I think 9 years ago. And I've
Wow.
always approached my writing with like, if somebody's getting hurt, if I'm describing the hurt, if somebody's feeling like, really like sensual, if I'm describing that, I never want it to tip into the point where it's gratuitous and exploitive or stirs like a feeling in the reader that I'm not like anticipating or intentionally writing for.
Hmm. I get that. I think that authors have a lot of power over the readers. You set the tone, you establish the
Mhm.
characters, the setting. Like, if you end up caring about characters or like really falling for them, it can be hard when like characters get killed off or they
Yeah.
experience a lot of trauma because it's like I don't know. It's a very divisive opinion. I did a Bookish Confessions episode recently where someone expressed that trigger warnings for them can come off as spoilers sometimes because
Hmm.
certain things are going to be happening, chapters even. So they like, oh, you should put the trigger warnings on the back of the book and then give a page number like, oh, you can check the back if you do want to know. Because some people don't want to know
Hmm.
anything, which
Hmm.
I'm like, bravery, good for y'all. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like I didn't realize this until I started writing and exploring, and your book has definitely inspired me to kind of dip my toes back into that world. But it's I didn't realize like writers are like they have magic in their words, and if you describe things in detail, people get really attached to these characters, and you describe a traumatic moment or a violent experience, it can be like as the reader, like you're almost experiencing that, you're almost in that
Yeah.
moment too. So
Yeah.
even in romance, if there's like a abusive boyfriend or a cheating
Mhm.
situation and it's consistent in the story, some people don't read those books because it's like so visceral and they care about the characters so
Right.
much or they've experienced it.
Yeah.
So words are
Yeah.
powerful. They're really
Yeah.
powerful. So I
No,
respect
I
you for that.
totally agree.
I
Yeah.
100%
Thank
respect.
you.
It's a choice, and I respect
Yeah.
you for that because I love horror. I love Southern Gothic, but like you can have darkness and still have a certain level of like respect, like for the
Hmm.
characters and for the readers,
Hmm.
and that's saying a lot. Matt Cassidy did that recently with When the Wolf Comes Home, and
Hmm.
it does like the very first chapters from a child's perspective, and you don't really know what's going on. You just know that his dad is like growling, like where, like his voice is like cracking and all that, and you begin to realize like the father is like a wolf, and the
Hmm.
little boy is the father's like, where'd you get the storybook? And the boy opened the storybook and he saw a wolf in it and he saw his father, and the
Hmm.
monstrous element is no longer this fantastical wolf. It's this man who's like very controlling, and when you're a kid you don't really know, like, so it's one of those things where it's like
Hmm.
writing is so powerful. Even in romance, like, I don't blame people for reading romance and like wanting more in their lives because these books
Yeah.
inspire them to want more. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's it's a, and Nat Cassidy's a genius. How can you create such an emotion, such a visceral emotion in the first 5 pages of a book? You can
Hmm.
set it with a child. You know what I mean? Like someone you
Yeah.
want to protect. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So I
sense.
don't know. It's interesting. Like it creatively, there's
Yeah.
a lot you can do with that, and it's so
Hmm.
unique. You can take ink and paper and create an entire world.
Yeah.
So that's so
Yeah.
cool. Oh my gosh. Since we've gotten to the icebreakers, I want to know a little bit more about what's inspired your poetry and what's inspired your romance. So my question for you is, What poems did you grow up loving? And what romance books made you fall for that genre?
Ooh, okay. So the very first book of poetry I ever read is by Sharon Creech, and it's called Love That Dog. And I was given this book of poetry in fourth grade, and like I just remember being like, this is so sad. Like, why did you give me this for my teacher? And I had like my grandfather, my late grandfather, who I get so much inspiration from, was an author and actually just had a his own book come out posthumously because he died in 2020, like in November.
I'm so sorry for
And
your loss.
so thank you. But he is like I feel like he's very present with my writing because he was like this prolific poet, author, published all over, like in all these magazines and things like that.
Mhm.
And so just his persistence and like seeing the rhythm of how he would like set up his day because my grandma would work like the traditional 9 to 5, but my grandpa was like a full-time writer, would
Wow.
have his entire day and night sometimes structured around whatever writing project he was on. So that's really inspired the way I approach writing and like how to have like a balance because when you're at home writing all the time, home becomes work and you still have to separate it, you know? But yeah, Love That Dog was a really sad book of poetry about this little kid in elementary school whose dog dies. And his teacher is like, you should write poetry. And he's like, that's for girls. And the entire book is a poem. And it's so unique in that way. So the whole book's a
Wow.
poem, and it's him discovering a love for poetry by writing poetry about his dog. But the whole book's a poem. So that's really cool and very immersive. So that I keep that in mind every time I write. I think about that one little elementary school book of poetry. So definitely, if you have kids in your life or even if you're an adult, check out Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. And then I will say the first romance novel I ever read, it's so funny because I'm not even going to drop the title because the author is terrible. Not a terrible writer, but the author is like a really bad person.
Oh,
But I was 15 and I
we all go
pulled
through
this
a
book.
journey. It's a
That's
journey.
what I mean. And I pulled this book off my stepmother's bookshelf. And later as an adult, when I realized like more about the world and then I would like look her up on Google, I was like, oh my gosh, she's a terrible person. Um, but I will say I loved reading my first romance novel because I came from a very high strung religious background. And that was the only way I got to experience sensuality and like not feel guilty because I could chalk
Mm,
it up to like it's just a book. And so I feel like by reading romance and getting to own my sexuality in this like contained way when I didn't feel safe or like brave enough to like really experience it, that kind of let me know like maybe like this is something I like in a partner relationship or without actually dating, without actually like putting myself out there. And so that's why like when I write, I try to keep that in mind like what if this is the first time somebody has ever read romance or the first time somebody's ever like felt what I'm trying to stir in them.
absolutely.
So I feel like an immense sense of responsibility for that. And I just try to be like really mindful and careful.
Oh, I really appreciate how you've kind of broken down like the importance of what you read and how that kind of plays a role in how you write. One of the
Mhm.
best poetry collections I've ever read was Vulnerable AF from Tank and the Bangers.
Oh, wow.
She's
I love
actually based
her.
from New Orleans. Yes, she has a poetry
Yeah.
collection.
I didn't know
Um,
that.
it is really good. And
Okay.
there's like if you listen to the audiobook, you can hear her reading the words, like spoken word. And then she also has like live music in it as well, which makes sense because she's amazing. But
Hmm.
for listeners out there, I highly recommend one, you listen to Tank and the Bangers because her music is brilliant. And her
Hmm.
music is heavily linked to spoken word poetry. But also, this poetry collection, she describes someone as like the sun, and she's like, I described you as the sun because I love the way you make me shine, like
Hmm.
glow.
Hmm.
And just the way she describes like friendship, love, they how chaotic life can be. um it was so like unique, and it was
Hmm.
so immersive. She also did illustrations for the book, so which is
Oh,
really cool. And it's just
yeah.
amazing, and it's got like her in her head with all these items coming out of her head, like wild thoughts that get out loud.
Hmm.
It's just so cool.
I love that.
It's really good. I will definitely send you the link. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And it's one
Thank
of the
you.
most amazing audiobooks I've also heard. Either way you do it, you
Yeah.
can't lose.
Okay, great. I'm
So
gonna check that
yes,
out. Thank
her
you.
voice is like, it's genuinely like the best dessert in the world. Think like creme brulee, brownies, cookies, ice cream. Like she's a magician. Like she
I
has to
love
be
that.
a
Yeah.
magical being. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that you're both based from New Orleans, I'm like, and you go together real bad. So
Oh, that is such an honor. Thank you.
yes, and she's the thrifting queen. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah. So that's the best. And like I said, romance wise, like there's so many amazing romance books out there. The first romance I ever read was, I think, Fallen Too Far by Abby Glines. And I remember this only because I found like, this is not good. I found a PDF on my first phone. I couldn't afford the book and I didn't have a library near my house. So I just like my friend recommended it in school. She was like, "Oh, it was so scandalous." So I found it on my phone and I had to like use a Google website and like swipe and refresh every day to get through the
Yeah.
chapters. For the ones who
I
know, you
have
know.
I have read a PDF in high school as well. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and your
no
phone gets
judgment.
hot. Yeah. You know what?
I know.
Yeah. And you can't have it was back in the day when you couldn't have like YouTube open at the same time as the books. You couldn't listen to
Right. It would
music.
overload the phone.
It would. So I'm sitting
Yeah.
here and I'm like, it was worth the risk. It was amazing. It was like it was one of those books where you read it and it's like it makes you want to read more romance. It wasn't super deep, it wasn't super shallow. It was like every single time they tried to fall in love, like something would get in the way. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, why is this happening? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
not live. Ayo. But I just it was a good story. And I think I look back and I'm like, a lot of the romances that I've read or the sci-fi or horror, I just wanted the black girl to live. I wanted us to get loved on. I wanted us to be protected and seen and cared for and not used as like a tool to get to the next chapter. Like, oh, you have a magical ability? I'm going to use that to survive as long as I need to. And then you're going to fade to the
Like
black.
Bonnie in the Vampire Diaries. Okay.
100%. Kill
Did
her, bring
her
her back.
dirty. Yeah.
100%. And I loved Bonnie. My mom's DVR, listen, I had a
Yeah.
crash out because she accidentally deleted an episode. I remember that to this day, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't even know what happened. My mom's like, isn't it on Netflix? No, I'm like, that's not the point. That's not the point. I had it recorded. Okay, I was
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
And it was the worst part. Was like it was an accident. But I remember Bonnie had
Mhm.
died like in a previous episode, and I'm like, and she's never coming back. But
Yeah.
Kat Graham, to this day, I need her to have her own movie, her own TV show where she's like a
Yeah.
witch and she gets to be
Yeah.
loved on, maybe an Enzo
Hmm.
like character. Hey yo, maybe
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
Damon like character. Hey yo, I need it. I
Yeah.
100% challenge you to write like a Caroline Klaus romance, but make it black somewhere in the future,
Yeah.
please,
Yeah.
please. I have yet to find a book like no one's writing the books for it's like a Klaus character. He's unhinged, but he also sketches art for her.
I wanted them together so bad.
I wanted them together. So spoiler alert, y'all. I'm so
I
sorry.
know.
Klaus and Caroline do not end up together. She takes care of his daughter. Like
Yeah.
she does all these things for him, yet they do not end up together. And I'm just sitting here and
I
I'm like,
know.
well. Not all romances, I guess, gonna treat us right. But that's what we have
Yeah.
you, because your romances do treat us right. So I'm like,
Thank
and when is
you.
it? Okay, so I want to dive into 12 voicemails of Christmas. I want to know, can you describe to the listeners what 12 voicemails of Christmas is gonna be about? Um, and what tropes are in it?
Yes. So, oh, I love a good trophy post. So I have on my Instagram, and my Instagram is at Maya-Gawonii writes. And I'm hope you can like spell that so I don't have to
I can put it in
spell
the
it
show
right now.
notes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. But yeah, on my Instagram, I do have like a little pinned post of the tropes, but it's mutual pining. We love mutual pining. City-based romance, so San Francisco to Oakland. Second chance romance, which I didn't used to like second chance romance. I really didn't, but then I found myself writing it and I was like, oh, actually second chance romance is like pretty bittersweet and like it's cool when you have like history with someone and then you have to like re get to know them like years later, and like you know them, but there's so much of their life that you're not like tuned into anymore. So
Hmm.
there's, yeah, mutual pining, city-based romance, second chance romance. Um, and then yeah, both characters are people of color. So my male character is Theo Vega, and he's Mexican. And then my female character is Kaya de la Cruz, and she's Filipino.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know a little bit about what inspired 12 Voicemails of Christmas. And I want to know a little like non-spoiler tidbit. Like if there's anything you want to share
Okay.
with the listeners, a little teaser.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. So what inspired it is I wanted to make a holiday romance for sure because I was like I just, I've gone through like not like battle up, but like I've gone through like so many different like metamorphoses of like what I'm doing on my page, and like I write poetry, and like I've been writing for months. I've been writing essays like on like liberatory politics and things like that.
Oh
And
wow.
so I was like, I want to write fiction. And I know that in 2026, my big pivot is just fully writing fiction. Um,
Hmm.
and so I was like, how do I like give like simultaneously a sneak peek into what my fiction voice sounds like, but also kind of like a gift for the people that have like been here since like last year, you know what I mean? And just kind of like watch the evolution. So yeah, I know I wanted to do that. And then my son was talking about the song of like the 12 days of Christmas, and like why are there so many birds in it? And we just have like this really funny conversation about why there's like three or two turtle doves and like three red hens and things like that. And then like I don't know, I was like, what would it be like for there to be like a different version of like the 12 days of Christmas? And then I thought about like magical realism, and I'm like a big like Christmas is magic type person. I'm like something about the holidays, even if you don't celebrate Christmas, I just feel like something about December is very like, and New Year's is very magical and like new beginnings.
I
So it all
agree.
just kind of came together in a blender in my head. Um, and then yeah, the 12 Voicemails of Christmas came out. And so just a little snippet teaser is Kaya de la Cruz and Theo Vega are college sweethearts, and they've been separated and broken up with for about 8 years at this point. So they're in their like late 20s, or you could like mentally be like, oh, they're like 30, 31. You could get away with saying maybe 31 max. But they're in their late 20s, and they haven't, been together for 8 years for the reasons that you break up with people when you're really young. Like, I feel like when you get older, you have a little more, what is it? Not like maybe wherewithal is the word, but like you don't necessarily break up with someone that's like you can work through. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that are just like with age and wisdom and time, you learn that there are things that you can work through and that are tenable, and you can,
Mhm.
And so it's like their breakup is something that like would not break me and my spouse up. I would not divorce my spouse for what they broke up, but they were in their early 20s. And I could
Mm.
totally see myself in my early 20s breaking up for the reasons they did. And so then it's 8 years later, and they both start receiving voicemails from each other that they did not send. So like Kaya gets a voicemail from Theo that Theo did not have any memory of sending, and Theo gets a voicemail from Kaya that Kaya has no memory of sending, and they don't
Mm.
even communicate while this is happening. So not, and that's not even a spoiler, but it's just like they just keep getting these voicemails, and they're always at 12:03 a.m. And so the story just takes you on the journey of like, what are the voicemails? Are they happening now? Are they old voicemails? Are they like, is this like the magic of Christmas reaching through the universe? Like, what is it?
Ooh.
And then yeah, and then the story culminates on Christmas Eve. And I don't think I should say anything else.
I love that. I That was actually the perfect little like teaser, and I am
Yeah.
100% here for it. I also wanted to know, oh, you already answered this question, really. The story is set in San Francisco and Oakland and has a magical wintry vibe.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to know what was your favorite part about writing this for the story?
Oh yeah. Well, something I really love about like Bay Area Christmas is like the holiday night markets. So that
Mm.
definitely has there's a scene at like an Oakland holiday night market. I love the mix of like gritty city vibes. And by gritty, I don't mean like dirty. I just mean like industrial, like stuff like
Mm.
that. But like what is it like to be, in like the gritty city with like Christmas lights like hung from like a bodega. You know what I mean? Like just like that like vibe and like that like juxtaposition felt really like fun to explore and write. So yeah, I think that that was just it experience trying to express like what a Bay Area Christmas is, what we do. And I mentioned it's like in one of the earlier chapters, I can't remember who said it's like a side character that mentions it about like, oh, the fireworks going off in Oakland because everybody knows Oakland for our fireworks. All starting in May until like it's like May to February. It's just fireworks for anything. Like if there's a big if the the Giants win, there's fireworks going off. So I made sure that like, if you've never been to the Bay before, like this character mentions, oh, it's getting to be the holidays because the fireworks are going off. You're like, oh, that's what they do there.
That is so cool. You're making me
Yeah.
want to visit. Like you're making me want to go with my partner and be like, we got to go. We
Yeah.
are huge fans of the aquarium. It makes us
Oh
feel like big
yeah.
kids. So I know
Yeah.
that there's some really beautiful aquariums in San Francisco. So I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, say less, say
Yeah.
less. I'm here for it. I think that's one of the best parts of romance is when I'm reading a romance book and they get to be like big kids together in a certain moment, be it
Yeah.
like trying a new food together, listening to a song, like they're transported to this like really safe place. Like love
Hmm.
feels like a safe place.
Hmm.
And a writer who can make you feel that way. So like you look at your partner when you're reading and you feel grateful that like the things
Yeah.
you're reading, you're also experiencing in your real life.
Yeah.
Authors who do that are like so rare.
Yeah.
And I have to say that your writing definitely does give me that feeling.
Oh, thank you
So
so
it's
much.
just so good. So I can't wait for everyone to read it. I think it's truly for everyone. My last question about 12 voicemails of Christmas is what would you like readers to know about your upcoming wintry romance? And it comes out November 29th. Where can they find a copy?
So it's only on ebook. I'm thinking about, I'm not for sure, but I will possibly be tabling at some like author events in 2026.
Ooh,
If I am, I will announce way ahead in advance. That would be the only place you can get a physical copy because it's going to be like a convention exclusive.
got you.
So for now it's ebook only. And so if you have a physical Kindle, then you can download it to your Kindle. If you don't, you can just get the Kindle app from the App Store. And the Kindle app is free. And you just buy the book and then it, gets sent to your phone. And the book is $5.99. So I try to make it like just sweet little holiday accessible
Thank
price.
you. That's amazing. Okay, we're diving into your poetry, or we're going right into Moss Mother. So I
Yes.
wanted to know, what are some themes and elements in Moss Mother that you want readers to know about?
Yeah, so Moss Mother, so it's Moss, the full title is Moss Mother Poems from the Bayou, but I just say Moss Mother. Um, I think the themes that I really want readers to know is like these are it's European fairy tales, so it's like Little Red Riding Hood or Cinderella or Hansel and Gretel, but they're reimagined from a Black Southern Gothic lens. And I've taken these stories and or I've taken these fairy tales and tried to talk about like, um, okay, so for example, my take on Hansel and Gretel, without giving away the ending or anything, is about like what it's like to be an immigrant in this country, or especially like undocumented, and be promised safety and be taken
Mm,
advantage of for your labor. I have a fairy tale reimagining of Goldilocks and the Three Bears that deals with gentrification. I have some about like the Tulsa massacre. Like they're, but it's all like still very fairy tale-y. And so it's just themes of like black experience, black resistance, things like that, but as these European fairy tales.
ooh, I really, really appreciate that because there are so many elements of fairy tales where when you really look at it, there's like an intricacy to it, but it's lacking diversity. It's very white,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
it's very European. And it's one of those things where that's fine, but it would be nice to see a fairy tale or a tale that does illustrate people who you know or you work with or you care
Mhm.
for. So I actually really adore that. I also wanted to ask if you can read or share a poem or an element from Moss Mother.
Yes, absolutely. I actually have it in front of me. Is there one that you would like me to read, or are you open to me reading?
I want you to select one. I definitely just
Okay.
want you to pick one. I'm excited to hear it in your voice.
Okay. I am ready. Let me pull this up really quick. Okay.
100%.
I am going to read, I think I'll read the Goldilocks one that's on gentrification. Okay, let me turn up my brightness. I have this on my Kindle.
It's okay.
Okay, so this one is called Goldilocks Got a Lease Now. And it's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So it goes, she came in Sunday brunch style, mimosa lips, yoga mat gospel, community equity while evicting my auntie, city plan written in her tote bag, Salvation Army resale. Her laugh sounded like a deed transfer, eminent domain already in her throat. She ate our collard greens, envisioned soul food fusion, left a Yelp review for the bodega. Spice too heavy, but the vibe's immaculate. Now there's a wine bar where my cousin bought milk on credit. She broke our rocking chair. Hashtag vintage aesthetic. Splinters in her $100 denim. Caption, love this block. Took a selfie in the ruins. Hashtag authentic. Hashtag blessed. While the porch bent like my daddy's back. Hand me down blessed quilts. Cotton thread lullabies. Rustic chic Airbnbs. Plantation chic. Called it hers. There's prayers stitched in every seam. Are you sure you want to sleep with these ancestors? Coming home to a sheriff's call, the block is renamed after a tree that never grew here. Sorry my life didn't fit the space right. We should be grateful. The hood never looked so clean. Goldilocks wields a badge not hers, inherits the bank, sleeps sound on our porches painted paint blue while we stand in the street with rusted keys, watching history unfold itself in real time. Fixer upper signed in foreclosure ink, yesterday's rap muted on a paint over mural. Do you know who was lynched here? What do you know of hood memory? A beer garden invades where gospel once bellowed. They call it progress, call it future, more like insatiety in sundress, trickster in blonde curls, thief in daylight with the law her spine. Us, tired and holy and unhomed, still here, still here, still here.
Wow. That was absolutely wonderful. I am
Thank
trying
you.
not to fangirl right now. That was amazing. I want to know,
Thank
why did
you.
you specifically choose that poem? Why did you want to share that with listeners?
That one, it's so interesting because out of all the poems in the book, that one I feel is the one that's most like has like a spoken word rhythm to it. So I felt like one that would be like, it would fit right now because we're having like a conversation.
Absolutely.
Um, and then also just like, I don't know, I'm looking at it again and I feel like this is something that's folks are experiencing everywhere. I mean, I
Hmm.
even have like friends that, would be friends that have been in like a neighborhood for like decades or their family has been there generational and they've made friends with the people that are now gentrifying. And then the gentrifiers become a part of the community. And then the gentrifiers are getting gentrified. It's
Hmm.
like a snake eating its own tail. Like it's like
Yeah.
when the gentrifiers start to get gentrified, that is crazy. Like I just it's becoming such a problem. And so the book, that is the second to last poem in that book of poetry. And then the one after Goldilocks Got a Leash Now is called Brownstone Benediction. And that's about why it's so important to keep hold of your grandma's house. Like if you are a person of color in this country and your grandma owns her house, do not sell the house. It was really important to me to like end on that note. So yeah, I've been telling my friends as we like are getting older in our 30s and 40s and we are inheriting homes, and that's why I wanted to say it too, like on this podcast. It's like if you have the ability to keep that home in your family, keep it in the family. So that's my little PSA.
Oh, I agree. I think there's something to be said for, I'll speak for my family. We were blessed enough that my godparents do own their home. But like
Mhm.
my mom lives in Seattle, she's renting. My dad, I think, is also renting. There's the heirlooms are more like lessons, they're not physical items. And
Mhm.
generational wealth, I have to kind of build my own. So, and
Mhm.
I know a lot of people are experiencing that where you kind of have to start from scratch. Or you
Mhm.
buy an item at Marshall's and you're like, okay, this is gonna become our thing because we don't have anything else. You have to start with
Right.
something. My
Mhm.
mom has a big blue bowl and it's like cream in the middle and then blue on the outside. And we call it the grandma bowl. She bought it at TJ Maxx, but it looked old and we didn't have it, anything like that. And that became something she passed on to me. So I think that's one of those things where
That's
it's
so
like,
beautiful.
yeah, it's you got to start somewhere. You have to build something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like for folks who do have like generational wealth, good for you.
Mhm.
Like you
Yeah.
that is you for sure like have it. But at the same time, for
Mhm.
me, like if what I end up passing down to my kids and in the future, whatever my partner and I build, even if we don't have children, the idea of being able to pass on all these books that I've collected my whole life to create like a tiny library that's like accessible, that's full of queer
Mhm.
love stories, it's full of adventure and horror and sci-fi. I would have loved something like that when I was a teenager. I would have
Yeah.
loved to be able to grab books that had romances that I yearned for.
Yeah.
It would have been nice. So now that there's so
Yeah.
many, the things you pass on, like they hold power. I think a good
Yeah.
story can teach you
Mhm.
something about yourself. It can give you
Yeah.
courage, to explore. Like you said, like it's just a book, but it's so much more. Like
Yeah.
it becomes so much more.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I cannot wait for people to read your wintry romance and to grab Moss Mother and to read that poetry collection the entire year and to really like
Yeah.
steep in it and like let it soak in.
Yeah.
Where can everyone find you? Where can they find your books? How can they find out about upcoming things that you have coming up?
Yeah, for sure. So the best way to stay in the loop of things is honestly, I would say Instagram because I post like every day on Instagram, and
Got you.
that's at Maya-Gawonii Writes. And then I do have a website, and my website is called Cowrie Crossings, like a cowrie shell.
Ooh,
And that's where you can find my essay writing. That's where you can find my fiction writing, my poetry writing. I also, just for like my day job, I work as a consultant for like different like nonprofits that want to become like more liberatory. And so my consulting business is called Cowrie Crossings. So it's all just kind of come
so
together. It's like
cool.
my library and my business. Just, if you want to know about me in general, just go to cowriecrossings.com. Instagram Maya-Gawonii Writes. And then on my website, you can sign up to be a part of my newsletter. I don't send a newsletter that often, but when there's like a big thing coming up, like a big announcement or a giveaway or stuff, I put it in my newsletter.
That is absolutely amazing. Maya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was wonderful. Everyone, please follow Maya. Check out the 12 Voicemails of Christmas that would have come out November 29th. So by
Mhm.
now, it'll be out for you all to listen to. Perfect for winter. Moss Mother, if you want to be feeling all the things and to have something to really sink your teeth into, what a beautiful collection. Definitely check that out as well. Both can be found on Kindle. And support her in any way you can. Follow, read her books, check it out.
And
Thank you.
ask for your library and bookstore to carry my books. Okay.
Yes,
That's
so it's
like,
accessible to
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, that's
100%.
really helpful. Moss Mother made its way to the Shreveport Library. I was just made aware of. The book buyer there
That's
bought Moss Mother a few
awesome.
copies. So I was like, she's home.
Let's go. I am here for it. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on the podcast. Everyone, please follow Maya. Follow me on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave a little like, leave a little comment. Everything that we discussed from her website, her Instagram, the book's going to be linked in the show notes. So add them to your TBR. Thank you all for
Thank
listening.
you.
Have an absolutely wonderful night.